Hey, take your time.
And you have a union job.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the February 27, 2025 Occupancy Tax Coordination Committee to order. I need a motion to approve the minutes of the January 21st, 2025 meeting and the February 10th, 2025 special meeting. Motion made by Supervisor Runyon, seconded by Supervisor Thomas. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Action agenda, we have one today. It's to extend the existing contract with Rittner's before.
Skip privilege of the floor.
Oh, I did. I'm sorry. Privilege on the floor. Anybody like to address us? About that? Thanks for pointing that out. Action agenda, to extend existing contract with Rittner's Performing Arts Company for 2 months to complete the History on the Road TV series and amend the number of episodes from 11 to 7. So this contract would
So
expire
this-
now, okay?
This contract, he's in the final stages of the production of it. And so his contract was ending in March 15th, and he needs just a little bit more time to finalize those. And so in order for him to receive payment for the finalization of those videos, we need authorization to extend the contract beyond what the contract date is.
How long's the extension for him?
2 months.
2 months, right?
Yes.
2 months. Good. Need a motion to move that forward? Motion made by Supervisor Runyon. Seconded by Supervisor Gilligan. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just question. I'm trying to wrap my head around this a little bit. So am I to understand that the original contract was for the two amounts of the, is this 15,250 the original contract amount, or is this additional?
So this is the final payment of what he does. So the whole contract was for 34 and change. And without doing math very, very quickly, we have paid him out for the pre-production work. We have paid him out for the production work. We now have outstanding the post-production work, which is what he's working on. And so the total amount of the extension will not exceed the 15,250.
So I think what you're saying is the 15,250 is the dollar amount is included in the original contract.
So there's no dollar change, rather than just a date extending the contract change.
Well, I did notice though that the episode number went down significantly from the original contract.
Correct. So we believe that number, and we were listening to a couple of the former committee meetings as well as reading some notes. The discussion on 11 came about from what he had done in prior counties. But his commitment was never for 11. It was always for 7. So we want to make sure that the expectation and the update to the contract reflects what we had, our office, shouldn't say we, but our office, as well as Rittner had thought he were to produce.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next. Discussion items, Heather, you're up.
Okay, I'll join up here for once. I have a 2023 spend report for occupancy tax. This came about of many questions with regards to where the dollars are going, what we're doing with it, so on and so forth. And through the work, are there any more of those? Do you have more?
Who's looking for one?
Yeah, may I still, yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Does everyone have a committee level? Okay. So what this is our office, and a special thank you to Jessica, who has replaced Lisa, although Lisa's memory will not live in Jessica. Her resources and her ability to crunch numbers and do some deep diving with numbers is greatly appreciated. And whenever this, I'm going to give the background while they're pulling it up. This basically is taking 2023 spending. I want to make sure that we're clear on that. It's what was awarded in the entire year of 2023, all of the projects from A to Z. So for example, while they're pulling that up, we spent over $10 million in 2023. And so this spend analysis identifies or talks about and presents where those dollars were, what communities they were in, the line items that they may have come out of, and where the dollars were spent within the categories. So going on to the first page is just more of an analysis. And this is going to be the findings that we configured when going through and pulling this report together. So 85% of the expenditures in 2023 funded tourism special events, municipal payments, and tourism department allocations. 62% of those special funding went towards paid media, entertainment, and rentals, with 68% of those events funding towards Village of Lake George, Warren County as its entirety, and Queensbury. Municipalities, these are the dollars that municipalities get, both their 25% of the spending plan, spent 71% of their funds for marketing, entertainment, and to support special events that were taking place in their communities. The tourism department in Lake George Regional CVB, they're the top expenditures was promotions, payroll, advertising, and marketing. And then going on to overall, the top 5 towns to receive almost 50% of the allocated dollars of the 10 million are Village of Lake George. Actually, it's a 7 million because in going forward, you'll see that in certain areas, we removed Winter's Dream because I didn't want that to skew the numbers. I can talk about it, but what it was doing is if I included Winter's Dream in this $10 million, it would then show that probably 40% of the dollars went towards Warren County, and it is a one-time event. So I want to make sure we're comparing apples to apples. And if there are any questions on that, I can definitely go through it as we're approaching it on each of the slides. But looking at the 7 million plus, that 50% of the funding of that 7 million went to the Village of Lake George, Glens Falls, Town of Lake George, Queensbury, and Bolton. Moving on to the next page, this kind of sums up some of the points that I brought up earlier. We had an overall spend of $10 million. And went accordingly between each of these lines. The reason I pulled out these are the budget lines, not to get confused, but some of the committee members, when we speak about different projects, we may refer to these different line items. So I thought it would be helpful to break them out by the budget line item, so that should you pull the 2023 budget performance reports, that's what you're reflecting on. Going on to the next page, we look at the tourism, and we're going to look at each different line item in its entirety. Looking at the tourism special events funding. So $740,000 went towards special events. Again, taking out the Winter's Dream, because we want to be able to look at the events that we are funding. And I look at that as more of a funded project. And therefore, in future years, when we do comparisons year over year, we can look at what we normally do in a tourism special events funding. So again, looking at this, to give you a quick overview of what this line is for. It's authorized through the budget and awarded to individual, nonprofit organizations, and or for-profit businesses through application process. So I want to state that very clearly, because later on we'll talk about municipal funding, and the reason we have this tourism special events funding and municipal funding is this municipalities cannot apply for these dollars here. They can apply for the municipalities. But in here we look at the top funding sources: paid media, entertainment, event related, and venue rentals. Basically the tourism dollars, or the occupancy tax dollars, are going towards tourism related items. For tourism special events, we require that our logo, our messaging be included in all of the events that receive funding. and therefore we're extending that dollar on the tourism. Going on to the municipal payments. Municipal payments is actually the 25% that each of the municipalities get in addition to the spending plan. So how are these authorized? Municipality funding is authorized by resolution to take 25% of the total annual occupancy tax receivables and remit to municipalities based on their individual receivables. For example, if Bolton receives 25% of the overall revenue, they receive 25% of the 25%. And then the supplement funding, this is funding authorized through budget and or by resolution to fund additional municipal disbursements in specified amount agreed upon by the supervisors. So in this, you will receive, each of the municipalities receive their first payment in October of every year. The first payment of the current year they're in. So for 2025, I'm going to go to 2024 because it's easier to speak to that. The 2024 funding, the first disbursement was distributed in October of 2023. And every municipality receives $30,000 at that first disbursement. Then in May, you receive the remaining disbursement of the 2024. So in May of 2024, you received 2023's overall remaining balance of your percentage, the municipality's percentage. The reason why it's in May is the books close in March, and then there's times to bring out to make sure that gives the treasurer's office time to do their job so that we can distribute it. And then the spending plan is distributed between those two payments so that each municipality receives a payment second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter. And therefore, our office at times, and through no fault of anyone's, in times it's been dispersed sometimes at the end of the year. We would like to be consistent and make sure that the municipalities know when they're going to be receiving their funding and can expect them at certain times. And then this just gives an overall view of how much money each municipality gets and where these communities or municipalities spend these dollars within a category. So going on to the next slide, looking at the tourism department. The tourism department in 2023 allocated 2.1 million. This is dollars authorized through the annual budget for tourism department marketing expenses. And so 55% of the tourism promotion, 22% to salaries, and 18% to contracts. Just to give you an overview, tourism promotion is paid media, social media, all advertising related costs. Contracts are those that are like our SEO contract, our website contract, things like that. Moving on to the next slide, which is tourism business promotions. This is authorized through resolution to businesses and municipalities for tourism related items. I want to take a second for the Lake George Regional CBB, and I want to recognize the partnership that we have with them. In regards to each year, we allocate $600,000, and within the 2023 reporting, based on the expenditures that they have incurred, the dollars they've incurred was $637,000 in that 2023 year. So that the Chamber of Commerce is covering those additional dollars above and beyond what we give the CVB. Then we also have Lake George Visitor Center, which is spelled wrong, my apologies, for $25,000. We fund that. Lake George Radio, our contract is $24,000. We only spent $18,000 in that year. And we also fund the Lake George Visitor Center event coordinator. This was the first of 3 years that contract is in place. Moving on to the next page, which covers the Warren County projects. These are authorized through budget and by resolution to Warren County departments outside of the tourism department and or businesses for tourism related services. This line item is $430,000 and it funds the sheriff's office and the sheriff's office on various events that they cover, specifically the Balloon Festival, DPW's salaries or overtime salaries for this Balloon Festival, an outdoor recreational study, as well as the Lake George TV, which you'll hear of great results happening later this meeting. Moving on to the next slide, we look at the Civic Center capital costs. And this that I want to take a second because want to make sure we all understand what has been funding and what is continuing to be funded. So on this line was $350,000, and these are authorized through resolution to the Adirondack Civic Center for capital costs associated with the Civic Center, including the annual approval of a $250,000 one-time Heritage Hall. So in 2023, we funded the Heritage Hall for the renovations of that entire building or that entire area for $250,000 one-time fee. It covered these various costs within the pie chart. Then looking at the capital costs, this is a program that we have supported and we just recently passed to support again of $100,000 per year for 5 years is the current contract. Back then, this was the same process in 2023. I want to show that in this, their capital cost for 2023 was $250,000. However, the county only contributed $100,000 to that particular year. So I want to make sure that going forward, the Civic Center capital cost being funded by occupancy tax is only $100,000 per year. This $250,000 was just a one-time update. Moving on to the next page, which is the other part of what we do with the Civic Center, is another $250,000 annually. This is authorized through resolution and to the Adirondack Civic Center Coalition for solicitation of new as well as promoting of new and existing events taking place at our Civic Center. These dollars are crucial in the fact that we help them to retain existing exposure as well as go after new events. There are only Civic Center in the county, and I think it's important that we help them to promote their venue, but they also utilize us and our logo and extend our reach on our brand marketing. Going on to the next slide is environmental projects. This is authorized through resolution for the town of Horicon, town of Lake Luzerne, and town of Chester. And these fund eradicating of aquatic invasive species. It's $125 that's split amongst those 3 communities. It is my understanding that we also fund, Queensberry under another budget line. I will get verification on that. I meant to do that before this meeting, but I believe that we also fund that through another department and another budget line. And then moving on to municipal application funding. So back at the beginning of this document, we started with tourism event funding. Municipal application is the opposite of that in that it's for municipalities to apply. So these are authorized through budget and awarded to municipalities through the application process. And so these 3, Horicon, Queensberry, and North Warren, which is Tri-Lake Alliances, which goes through the municipalities, we awarded in 2023 for $43,533. And they spread out amongst these categories. Then moving on to the next slide, which is bubbles because it's easier. I have taken the entire, probably almost $6 million. The reason why I took out Winter's Dream and Warren County spending is I wanted to be able to show the impact that these dollars have and where the most of those dollars are spent by town. And the reason for that, if I kept the Warren County and the Winter's Dream spending, Winter's Dream, I put in as being effective for and being impactful amongst the county, there would be a huge bubble in the middle of the right-hand side under spending, and it would say Warren County. And I want to be able to show that this about $6 million, the top revenue generators, this is the only chart I talk about revenue. The top revenue generators in 2023 are those that we know of. Queensberry, town of Lake George, Bolton, and Village of Lake George. It's a known fact. There's no secrets there. But what I wanted to show is that outside of the Warren County spending and the Winter's Dream is spending in Village of Lake George, Glens Falls, town of Lake George, Queensberry, and Bolton. So we are very consistent with funding those projects by the towns that bring them in. And then finally, the chart that gets its own page because there's so many bubbles. This takes on everything again, minus Winter's Dream. So that's about $7 million, and this is where $7 million go. Almost 60% of all the dollars spent in 2023 went to fund contracts, entertainment, marketing, salaries, special events, and promotions. So this gives a quick overview of these dollars that are spent. And now that we have in place the process to collect these numbers, we will be doing this for 2024 and years beyond, and we can then do annual comparisons for that. Are there any questions? I know it was a lot to digest. My office is completely available for after the questions if need be.
I have a good job bringing
Thank
this
you.
all together.
And thank you for your help too.
Yeah, I know we talked about, I should probably, well, if you go back to municipal payments,
Yes.
should town of Lake George be listed on that, wasn't it?
And I apologize, I didn't put numbers on it. Gene, I was thinking of you last night when I reviewed it. Yes. And I think yes, I'm using a new program that makes it pretty. So you have to tell it how many lines it has to capture. So it is included in the distribution numbers. It's just not on the chart. So I will update that and I will make sure everybody gets a copy of it. They are included, they're just not on the visual. Thank you for that, Minnie.
Thank
And they
you.
probably were on the one that you reviewed, but I
They-
made it pretty.
yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Yes, my friend.
Morning.
Good morning.
You're doing great.
Thank you.
This looks good. The only one, on the environmental projects,
Yes.
that's an amount of money that's set aside to take care of certain lakes and milfoil. I don't see, this was all, it's all about, don't hold me to a penny because I don't have them.
Yeah.
About 42,000 for the 3 towns, but also Queensbury, it's 9,000.
Yes, and it's my understanding that doesn't come out of occupancy tax, but I do remember having a conversation, I think it was with you, that they do get funding from another budget line. Thank you for that.
This is really great.
Thank
It's been a long time coming.
Oh, boy.
Don't we fund the Lake George Park Commission, like $100,000 for, this?
Oh, thank you for that. On the very first chart, there are 2 line items that we didn't go into detail because yes, you're right. 2,000, and I should have read these. I didn't break out a chart for admissions, administrations, because that's 3% of prior year receivables. And then I also didn't break out the tourism special events discretionary fund. Actually, no, this is not, is this through the parks? This is funding to access the Hague Fire Tower.
Yeah.
Is that through the parks or no?
No, no.
So I don't see that in any of the, what we
What
have
we
paid
funded?
out
Lake George
in
Park
twenty
Commission?
twenty-three.
Through the, board,
Or is that?
legislators, I think it's through the legislative board, part of it's through OpTex. I think it's 100,000 on tax, or is it 100? I think it's 100,000 through the board's budget and 150 through OpTex, It's one or the other.
Okay,
Did it come out of 2023?
yeah, maybe it's county money.
I'll get you.
I will look into that. These are just, what we did is we made sure, number one, it was dollars that were actually spent in 2023 or used 2023 allocations, because sometimes reporting doesn't come into the following year. So we use that, but let me check on that.
Well, we've been doing it for a few years.
Yeah, so it should be in here,
I think
but
we
let me
can
see
it.
where and
So-
why it didn't make it to the budget performance report, which is what I really worked
So I
on.
might be mistaken. It might be county dollars.
Okay, well, I'll look anyways.
Yep.
Jessica's great at that. If it's in there, she'll find it. Any other questions?
Supervisor Patchett.
Yes.
Yeah, great job, Heather,
you.
thank you. Couple of questions. On the first page, it says the top 5 towns to receive almost 50% of the allocated dollars are Village of Lake George, Glens Falls, Town of Lake George, Queensbury, and Bolton. Does that 50% number include the municipal payments? That does.
That 5% includes everything,
Fif-
that's
50.
$7 million.
The 50%.
The 50%, yes.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
No,
Um,
you're fine.
the calculation that I'm seeing here, and I've asked this once before, I think actually in a full board meeting, but the calculation on the distribution to the towns, can somebody give me another rough idea how the distribution calculation was formed and how that thought process went?
So, in municipal, so by regulation, resolution, 25% of, and I'm gonna use full numbers, 25% of $1 million goes towards, the distribution of municipalities. Only 25% of the receivables, and let's assume receivables for that particular year is $1 million. So then you take those that monies and how each municipality, how much percentage they bring in of that receivable dollar. So then I think it was you that we were talking about 25% of 25%. Was that the meeting that we had? Or maybe it was someone else, sorry.
That's me.
Was it you, Vinny? Okay. I've had this conversation now, I think with a couple of supervisors, so it's top of mind. So what that would do is, let's say, that 250, 25%, 10% is what Bolton brings in. So they would get $25,000. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so it's more, the calculation is more based on what we're bringing in tax per town.
Correct.
It's kind of what your production is, so to
Correct.
speak. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. Okay, good.
I've got one more question,
Yeah.
if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Gosh.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm seeing 10,284,000 and change here. Am I to understand that we bring in about $8 million yearly in tax? Is that right?
We are going that way, but yes, you are correct. In 2023, we brought in, I think it was 7.6. I think you have that number right there in front of you. So what it is we are spending actually future receivable funds.
Future receipt.
Because if I can explain how expenditures go, if I can look, I would look at it as we make payments on an annual allocation over 18 months. So for example, probably till the middle of this year, we'll still be paying 2025 payments, and we will utilize existing receivables, not what we had budgeted.
Okay.
So we would, but how you can keep track of that and how my office keeps track of that is the budget is approved for X amount of dollars. Anything over that must come through this committee and the board through allocation. So we did spend these dollars. We made sure that there was cash flow to fund these dollars, and we passed it through allocation, and you will start to see some of that. A matter of fact, you saw that when we awarded $100,000 to the Civic Center. We had to allocate funds for that.
So the excess that I'm seeing here, the $2.4 million that is above the $8 million number, is future dollars that we're spending.
Correct.
And those numbers don't actually even reflect the Winter's Dream allocation.
The 10 million does.
The 10 million does.
Yes, the only couple places that it shows that is when I wanted to share and showcase how much the actual towns are receiving, because both tourism represents all of Warren County and Winter's Dream I viewed as a Warren County project. That would have skewed the bubbles. And I wanted to more give you a visual, but in this $10 million, this does include Winter's Dream. And if you go on to the next page, it tells you the breakdown. The Winter's Dream was 2.8 million is what was paid out in 2023.
Okay, thank you, Heather. One
You're
more
welcome.
follow-up question, if I may, Mr. Chairman. For the environmental projects, I noticed that 3 towns are applying for this environmental project money of 125,000. When is that due yearly, those requests?
So those are not through requests, those are through budget allocation. And so I would have to go back to my, the supervisors that were here long before to identify how that came about. But it's my understanding that happened, I think, in the early to mid 2000s, if I'm not mistaken, based on a chart that I have. So those are to fight the invasive species in those particular areas. And I'm going out on a limb. I would assume that the organizations that we work with, that the municipalities work with, have identified some concerns and identify these as a funding source to eradicate. But if anyone has more information, on when and where it started, that would be great.
Thank you, Heather.
I
Thank you.
think it was started about 7 years ago.
Okay.
It was one number and there was 3 towns. Then Queensbury asked for some of that money, so that they got us about $9,000. The rest of the towns don't hold me to the penny, but we get about 42,000. And then Queensbury, but it started off with 125, if I'm not mistaken. And then, Queensbury asked for money, so they got 9,000 out of that 125. So it dropped the rest of the towns down to about 43,000.
Okay,
That
Thank you.
just for.
no, it's good to know. Thank you.
There's a difference because Lake George got X number of dollars through the park commission for the milfoil.
Yeah.
So that doesn't show it. The 3 towns got it. It was brought up at the same time, the milfoil affecting the lakes and the Adirondacks. That's how they came to Chester, Hork, and then, Grant Lake, you know, Chestertown was Little Lake and or that. But the park commission gets a good chunk of money also for harvesting milfoil. That didn't show in there, but that is an environmental.
Thank you
thing
for
that's
that.
been done many years.
I knew that was
And I
a story.
think Sunnyside and Queensbury, I think they
They,
allocated some money for that, that lake also.
Thank you for that.
And so,
Thanks, Heather, good job. And then you have funding go towards Priscilla Court, do you know?
I couldn't tell what they use it for, it just goes to the park commission.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Next, Christine Norton, our treasurer.
Morning, guys. You've seen this before. We did make a slight change in the total occupancy tax report. We have the total collections is at the top, and that is hotels, motels, resorts, plus short-term rentals. And you'll see as of 2/12/25 that we were at 7.7 million. They're in your packet. I'm sorry, they are in your packet. They're unfortunately in the next section. You go to the next.
I don't see it.
No, we didn't have it in our packet. So we provided an extra copy on the side. It wasn't in either packets.
Here's an extra one, you want it?
Hold on, I thought it was in the tourism.
No. Does everyone have? Mine is still on.
I don't have that. My bad, I apologize. Great job on the business. I love that. Maybe it went to finance. So give me just a minute. I think
It was
somebody
for
just went
both
out to get
actually.
a couple copies. Thanks. Thank you. So let me just talk to you. Let me take a step back and tell you where we are today, and then we'll look at the details.
On the screen.
Oh, it is on the screen. Okay. All right. Thank you. So this is on the screen.
Even with my glass.
I think it was Vinny who asked in the last committee meeting to please break out hotels. So now we have it as total collections, which equals hotel and motel collections for short-term collections, short-term rental collections. So in total collections as of 2/12/25, we are at $7.8 million. And again, that's going to continue to grow until we get all receipts through March. So that number will be final as of the end of March. But if you look at the end of March number for 2024, that was $7.7 million. So we are actually neck and neck. Just so you know, I do have the number as of today, 2/26, and we are at $2.8 million. So we are roughly $100,000 over total OCTAX. Okay. When we look at total collections, again, you're going to see 2/12/25 to the 2/12/24 number, and you'll see it's about a 5% increase. Again, that 5% increase It's really about 3% because the enforcement efforts where the treasurer's department went after hotels, motels, anybody who has owed money to the county for several years, in some instances, decades. We brought in, about 2% of that 5%. Actually, the 2024 number was 150,000, of that 359,000. So that's why the 5% goes down to 3%. The hotels and motel collections, if you look at the bottom of this, we just broke it out separately for you. So hotels and motel collections is up 2%, as of 2/12/25, 6.1 million to 6 million. So that's 2%. So actually, hotels and motels are relatively flat, because our enforcement efforts were largely, if not 100%, on the hotels and the motels. So again, the other thing with hotels and motel collections, there was also a pricing change. So again, hotels and motels are the biggest chunk. They're 80% of our collections. So they're relatively flat when you look at this. And on the back page, or the next section, is the short terms. Those are up. Again, they're the smaller chunk of dollars. 80% is hotels, motels, 20% is short-term rentals. But again, you'll see as of 2/12/25, 1.6 million to 1.3 million. So we're up about $250,000, which is about an 18% increase in short-term rentals. So again, you're seeing the divergence, if you will, from short-term, from hotels and motels into the short-term rental area. And again, just the last piece, that I wanted to share with you, as of today, 2/20, or as of yesterday, 2/26/25, we are currently at $7.8 million in total collections against last year's 7.7 total collections. So we still have another month, so we may be up a couple, we'll see if we're up another $100 or $1,000. Any questions? And apologies, I'll make sure that this is included in the right,
And I'll make sure to get
committee
it from you
documents.
so that we make sure it's in there.
Yeah, no, Paul did reach out. That's on us. Okay?
Thank you. No questions? Good job. Thank you. We have Jesse Jackson and Ed Hawkins presentation of Lake George TV year-end review report.
We have a clicker. We have a,
Getting it. She's just got to put that up first and then she'll bring it to you.
Okay, thanks.
what button?
There's like a board here at center.
Oh, just the forward button?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I need to print it out.
Okay. Whenever you're ready.
Cool. Hey, everyone. First, thank you very much for inviting us in. Finally, we're here. And we have a lot to talk about. Our presentation, honestly, is only going to take 10, 15 minutes. Before I start, though, it's obvious I've been around the block a few times. And I think that Heather's presentation she just gave was one of the most comprehensive, knowledgeable presentations I've ever seen. So I think all of you, and us included, are in pretty good hands. So I just want to compliment you. It's really cool. Hey, at any rate, I'm really pleased to report to you that the platform is performing really well. It has genuinely generated the kind of response and results that we hoped for. We're very proud of it, and but we're also very grateful because you don't know a lot of times how things are going to turn out. And if you give it your all, you just hope that you hope for the best. And as you'll see, as we go through the numbers, you'll be able to see that we can back up what I just said to you. For those of you that are new to the committee, just a very, very brief history on this thing. Believe it or not, this project started over 3 years ago. You remember that? And it started with a pretty aggressive concept. And it was based on two things. I've been involved in video marketing my whole life, in video production my whole life. And I spotted a couple of things. One of them is pretty generic. We're moving into a video centric universe. It's all about video, no matter where you go. I don't care what device it is, whether it's a big screen or whether it's a mobile device, whether it's the web, it's all video centric. And then the other thing I noticed was that the adaptation of connected TV and streaming services was taking hold at a rapid rate, the kind of rate that I hadn't seen in my career. People were adapting to it very, very quickly. And what that suggested to me was that there may be a whole new marketing idea. I mean, this is really what I spent my career doing, trying to figure out what the trends were, what the next things were going to be. And when I spotted that, I thought, wait a minute, why couldn't you take that technology, that architecture from streaming services, from connected TV, and somehow adapt that technology to create a video environment in that space that was devoted to the video content of this county, devoted to visitor solicitations and to tourism. Fast forward, it took us about a year, believe it or not, to get the bugs worked out and to figure it out before you even knew about it, before it was ever launched. And we were really at the forefront of creating that. I'm a media junkie my whole life. I'm always looking around to see what people are doing and what's going on. I really honestly have yet to see anybody match us in the quality and the creativity and the effectiveness of what this platform is doing in this space. From the start, it really took off. Just quickly, we're over 900 videos on the platform. We've broken this into approximately 25 what we call segmented collections or categories. And that changes depending on what we're seeing and depending on the kind of feedback that we're getting from the people who are engaged with us. We also started something, it's a learning process. So we started something that Ed is going to talk more about called the membership sub-channels. This was an opportunity for us to lock arms with the different chambers to say, wait a minute, the technology also exists that we can create in the menu of options for people coming to engage with us with this platform, the opportunity not to only go to see, hey, hiking resorts or hospitality or restaurants or any of the different things in the different collections or categories, but they would also be able to say, well, wait a minute, I really am interested in Bolton Landing. I'm really interested in Hague. I'm really interested in Thurmond, to get an idea that they could dig deeper immediately in the menu to be able to do that. And Ed will explain more about that. The goal of all this, of course, is to create a destination, not what we think. One of my mentors told me very early on, you may think it's a good idea. If the consumer doesn't think it's a good idea, it doesn't work. And what we're learning is that they're really engaging with us and telling us the kinds of things that they like. And we're shifting our priorities as we go and trying to stay ahead of the curve. It's one thing to come up with a good idea, and I think you can tell from what I'm saying that it really is a learning process. You got to stay on the cutting edge. This is video. This is something that people in the short attention span world that we live in are constantly moving in and out of. Think of TikTok. Think of any video thing and any app that you might have on your phone. Anything related to that, and something that's very key, which is why I know our presentations are usually a little different than the other presentations. I come from the school that marketing is entertainment, and that's the gateway to somebody's building perception about whether they want to come here or whether they want to go to Cape Cod. They want to be entertained first. They want to say, oh, that's a cool idea. I want to experience that. And I've been in this business my whole life, and I know that fundamental principle will never change. Get their curiosity first, then they will seek the information. And now we've got them. And now we've got an opportunity that they'll tell their friends, that they'll develop loyalty. We become a destination, which is the high point of a lot of things that I'm talking about. And the final point there is make certain that we keep the consumer engaged. They got very, very busy lives. they're not getting up in the morning thinking about LakeGeorge.tv or coming to Warren County. They got a lot on their plate. It's up to us to kind of stay in their face. And we've got, I think, some pretty compelling examples of how we approach that and what the results are. And we'll get into that. The ongoing strategy is pretty much just a recap of what I'm saying. We respect the audience. You have to respect them. We're entertaining them. We're in constant contact with them, and we listen to them. Another very valuable piece to this puzzle that we learned was that marketing is usually an outward push towards the consumer. We have over 900 videos on this platform now. We are spending an equal amount of time engaging the partners on that platform. Those are the businesses in Warren County. It's our job to take those businesses and give them the opportunity that you honestly gave them by making this free to them, to have us come up with ideas of how to engage their businesses so that when we do promotions and we do marketing, the center point of that may be some clever line or something, but the center point of that is the essence of what the business offers. Now they get that additional push and they get that additional information. And that kind of closes that loop so that we have the partnership with the businesses, really controlling the idea generation for the things that we do to reach out to the consumer. We're going to show you only one example of this today in the effort of saving some time. But we seem to have been very, very successful. And again, one of the foundations of marketing, which are kind of sweepstakes and giveaways. Traditionally, that has a lot of different kinds of interpretations. You'll see our spin on that, which is based on our knowledge of what this means and also what the consumers are saying back to us. I think they'll show that they've got creativity involved with them. They got a hell of a lot of marketing savvy in there. They all have partnership participation. And of course, the end goal is to get as many of these consumers as possible to engage with us and actually participate in that. You'll see as we move through this, that it's not hyperbole. We've been really successful with this so far. I'm going to turn it over to, I'm giving it to Amanda first. I'm going to give it over to Amanda. Oh, and I'm sorry, my apologies. Amanda Metzger and Ed Larkin are two more of the team. There are three others, but Amanda really takes care of the social media and gives us that wonderful generational edge, which is a wonderful thing to have. She says things to me that I don't really understand a lot of time. But she's very, very clever, very smart, knows how to reach out to the consumer and get that conversation going. That's engagement, is to get the conversation going. And a day doesn't go by that I think to myself, well, I got Ed Larkin here. We're yin and yang. It's a real good balance. Ed really has a great sense of what strategy means in this field that we're working in and understands the value of the numbers and our responsibility to all of you for the investment that you made in us. So Ed has got a lot that he's going to go over too. And then I'm going to close out with one of my quote unquote clever things. Okay. I guess I'll turn it over to Amanda then.
You want me to play the video?
Oh, yeah. In case you just want to know what it's like when you come to the platform, this is the kind of thing that
You
you'll
have to
see.
play that for me?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And there is audio with this also. But again, the strategy on this is really to hit them right from the very, very beginning. You know, in this we run this with the audio in front of a lot of the things that we do. So immediately people know that this is a place that they can go. It's all video in one place, and it's where to go, what to do, where to be seen in sort of an entertaining invitation, if you will.
Playing the video again. There we go. Hello, everybody. So, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our strategy and tactics for getting the word out about Lake George TV, because it's, you know, what we're working on is building habit with people, getting them to come to this because it's a new concept. connected TV isn't new, but using connected TV to discover things about your favorite place to go is a new idea. So we've been using social media to engage our viewers, and telling them that this is a way, Lake George TV is something we've created to make it easy for people to explore the area in video form using a TV remote or a smartphone. So it's not a matter of, you know, getting lost in social media, getting lost in click holes out there. You have one place where you can see everything going on in the area. And how a major way that we're using social media to do this is collaboration with partners, so businesses throughout the area. And up on the screen, there's a few posts from a series that we worked on with Adirondack Nationals to publicize the car show last year. We've really leveraged their celebrity guest, who was Javier Shorty Ponce. He's the host of Shorty's Dream Shop, and he's very well known to any car people out there. So we use this to reinforce Lake George TV as an essential resource for attendees and automotive enthusiasts alike, and to really get the word out there about everything they have going on at car show, because that, as you know, it's not just cars. They have so much going on. So that was one of the ways that we used collaboration. Another really great instance we had was Billy Trousseau, who owns Lizzie Keys. He was also the executive chef at Basil and Wicks, but you might have heard that they're closing. So Billy was a contestant on Hell's Kitchen and has a great social media following, and he worked with us on our latest sweepstakes. So that was another way that we kind of leveraged TV and celebrities to get the word out about Lake George TV. And our collaboration has been great with the partners, because it's not just events, it's not just restaurants. We've been working with lodging and retail, all basically covering the whole gamut of what people come here for, attractions. Okay, there it goes. So in 2024, we're using Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram for social media. And in 2024, our reach was 500,000 across all three platforms. So that's a triple-digit increase over what we did in 2023. And this growth highlights the increasing popularity of Lake George TV as a trusted resource for discovering all that our area has to offer. And our goal, like we say, is to make Lake George TV a go-to habit for people, whether they're seeking what's new in the area or they've been here many times and are looking for hidden gems. We just launched a Trivia Pursuit, it's called, series, where we partner with the different businesses in the area, and for a social media series where we ask people a question that they can find in a video. And then if they answer it correctly, we DM them a special thing from the business. So the Queensberry Hotel was our first partner in this. And I wanted to read you one of the comments on that post from someone. How did I not know about your hotel? I've been going to Lake George since 1979. I will be checking this out for sure. So that's an example of how the platform has helped somebody who's been coming here for decades discover something new. So that was a great example. And speaking of partnerships, so we have 4 seasonal sweepstakes, like Jesse mentioned. And these are driving engagement and creating really tangible benefits for local businesses we've worked with 17 partners across these 4 sweepstakes. And these partners are from Glens Falls all the way up to North Creek, Queensbury, the whole county. And what we've done through these is, in addition to giving away some great prizes, we've collected email addresses. So we're building a database, and all of those businesses that partner with us have access to those that opted in, so they can then retarget those subscribers. And what we've seen from the email addresses that we've collected is a really well-engaged group, because our email campaigns have had a 50% plus open rate and a 23% click-through rate, which is really good at email stats. And we've collected more than 5,000 of these high quality visitor contacts. So with that, I will hand it back to Ed to talk about some of the exciting upgrades to the platform.
Thank you. So thank you for the opportunity to come in and give you a recap on year 2. Year 1 for us was all about building and populating the platform. And year 2 was all about accelerating growth and adoption by both consumers and businesses. So to that end, we did some upgrades on the platform. And the first one was to add Amazon Fire TV. We already had Roku and Apple TV. And of course, we're available on iOS and Android devices. But adding Fire TV, which is the largest connected TV platform, gives us access to an additional 250 million consumers. So it's a huge universe to tap into that we didn't previously have access to. Another thing that we did was to create video loops. So if you go to something like food and drink and you hit the first video in that category, it'll play all the way through the videos in that category till it gets to the last one. And then it'll loop back to the beginning and play the category all over again. And it literally will do that all day long unless you change to a different category or stop it. And that's really critical for things like our member channels that I'll talk about in a second. The other thing that we did was to make the platform embeddable. Both the individual videos as well as the entire platform can be embedded into a third-party website. So if you're Goose Pond Inn and you have a website and you have a video on Lake George TV, you can now embed your Lake George TV video in your website. Why that's important is that it increases the engagement for the consumers. It makes your website more interactive, but because the video is hosted on our side, it doesn't strain your website resources. So you're not killing your broadband or loading time of your website. It's actually being hosted on the Lake George site, but it improves the quality of your website. And we've always been available everywhere, 24/7, 365, worldwide on mobile devices, apps, the web, et cetera. But now we also have a physical presence in some of these through some of these partnerships that we're going to talk about. So the goal of all these upgrades was, really to increase our reach, our access, our engagement with consumers, but also to increase the usability to our partners as well, our business partners. So another critical piece of that was to grow our business and community partnerships. And we've done that predominantly through these partner sub-channels. Not sure where to point this to get it to go. There we go. So we always had in 1.0 version, we always had a Warren County resources section in Lake George TV. But now we've added the LGRCC, Lake George Regional Chamber, we've added Bolton Landing, and we've added the Lake George Visitor Information Center. So let me just switch on to the next one to show you what these sub-channels are all about. What the sub-channels are about is they are a turnkey free marketing ecosystem for these organizations to be able to highlight their members. So an example of that would be the Bolton Landing Chamber of Commerce. If you go into their building, there is a huge 60-inch television set sitting in their visitor center. So a visitor walks in, they can browse the paper brochures and the pamphlets and all that. They also are probably going to have their eye caught by this huge 60-inch television that is playing the videos of the Bolton Landing Chamber members and only their members. It's a closed eco-marketing system for them. So I've been in there and watched this in the summertime. It's pretty cool. People are just looking around. They're picking up some brochures and then they just stop and they watch the videos go by. And the cool part is that if they see something that catches their attention, they can pull out their phone and just scan the QR code and they're instantly connected to that business. So if they want to buy tickets to an event, if they want to make a hotel reservation, they want to make a dinner reservation, get hours, directions, it's all right there at their fingertips. So it's all through the videos. So Jesse talked a little bit about some of the look and feel improvements that we made. You saw how the video, how the platform plays when you first go to it. Now it's much more video centric. Amanda talked about some of the marketing strategies and successes that we've had. And I've talked about some of the upgrades and the expansion and partner development that we've had. But, you know, ultimately the question is, what does all this mean in terms of some results? So, the first one, yeah, or as I like to call it, where the rubber meets the road. You know, all these efforts really, when it comes down to it, what kind of results have we actually yielded from them? So the first thing I want to talk about is our visitor reach. For me, before Lake George TV, I spent 32 years in corporate sales and marketing for a lot of blue chip companies. So I think in terms of a sales funnel. And in this case, the sales funnel really starts with your reach. How many people are you exposing to all the things that there are to see and do and places to stay within Warren County? That's your largest, you know, your opening of your sales funnel essentially. And we grew our reach by 1,054% in year 2, from 68,000 to over 700,000 people that we reached through this platform. So exponential growth we've had so far. As you move down the funnel, you're going to look at, well, how many visitors did that actually drive to our platform itself? Oh, this doesn't go first. Thank you. Yeah, platform visitors. So we had huge growth of 827% in terms of the people who we reached them, and then they came to the platform to find out more information, to watch the videos, to engage with the businesses. We went from 6,600 to over 55,000. So we reached exponentially more people. We had a huge growth in our visitors. But what kind of, you know, content view growth did that also lead us to? When people come to the platform, they're viewing content. So we had 490% growth in terms of visitor views. So we're reaching more people, we're driving more people to the platform, they're viewing more content. We also wanted to see, well, what kind of engagement are we getting from them? Are we getting better or more engagement from them as well? So in terms of, oh, whoop, I went back too far. In terms of engagement, well, for us, for a video platform like us, video playtime is how we measure engagement, right? So somebody comes to the platform, you're looking at how many seconds did they spend in watching videos. And we grew that by almost 700% this year. We went from 287,000 seconds to over 2 million seconds in year 2. So again, huge growth in terms of the amount of engagement that we've had. And it's partly a matter of the quality of the videos too. But it's also Jesse, in the very beginning of this, talked about how the vision was to make this something that would reflect the overall feel of Warren County. You know, from the fancy places that we have in the county to the not so fancy places in the county. And so getting that broad amount of content on the platform is really very engaging for people as they use the platform to discover all the things that there are in Warren County for them to see and do. So they're coming to the platform, they're engaging with it, they're exploring Warren County through Lake George TV. And of course, we always want to see, well, where are they coming from? 90% of the people in year 2 came from the 3 to 4 hour radius that is the target of Warren County tourism. So they're coming from New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Vermont, New Hampshire, et cetera. Quebec, hopefully that'll keep up, we don't know. Ontario, places like that. But 90% of them are coming from the target area that we have and the adjacent areas as well. So we can definitely see that consumers are adopting this as a way to discover Warren County. Consumers adopting it is one thing, but the flip side of that is that we always also want to look at the key metric of how are businesses adopting this as well. So that would be our partners. That's the businesses, the events, the attractions out in Warren County. We always look at how are they adopting this as well. And what we see is that we had 157% growth this year in terms of adoption by businesses in Warren County. So in this chart, the green is the amount of content on the platform, and the yellow is our benchmarks. So 157% growth, and we continue to exceed our benchmarks throughout year 2. So we grew our reach, we grew our views, grew our engagement. We're reaching the right people. We've upgraded the platform. We've expanded our social media. We've launched email. We've grown our partnerships. Ultimately, to the extent that it's possible, though, are we driving visitors to the businesses? Because that's really what we, again, where the rubber meets the road for us is where that is. And we measure that through clicks to the businesses. So every piece of content on Lake George TV, every video has a QR code and a URL that's trackable embedded in it. So if somebody's watching a video, they can scan that QR code, or if they're watching it on their phone or their computer, they can click that link and that'll take them directly to the business. So we always want to see to what extent are people actually doing that? And that we grew by almost 700% this year, going from 5,800 clicks to over 40,000 clicks in year 2. So we've reached the consumers and we've exposed them to Warren County and all the things there are to see and do here. We've driven them to the businesses. Just a quick recap on kind of year 2 and yeah. Our year 2 goal was to accelerate growth, use, and adoption, but ultimately also to drive visitors to the businesses. So if you look at these metric summary from our 1,000% plus of visitor reach, all the way down to our almost 700% growth in clicks, we feel pretty confident in saying, yes, we accomplished our goal, and that this Lake George TV has become a pretty important venue to help drive and expand Warren County tourism. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Jesse.
I just really want to close out by thanking you for giving us this opportunity. We take it very seriously. I know you expect when we come up here that we're going to show you something different. Our approach is different. But we take it incredibly seriously. The 3 of us and the other 2 people that you don't really know here. And so what I thought we would do is just, this will take, honestly, God, this will take like 2 minutes, is I mentioned a lot about this idea of sweepstakes and giveaways.
Stay behind the microphone. People who are watching at home can't hear you. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay, and for those of you at home. We come up with these ideas, right? And the ideas are only as good as the idea is in terms of whether or not the consumer is going to engage with it. And as I hope that the 3 of us have said, that the way we make this exciting is by engaging the businesses, engaging the people, the businesses in Warren County. Collectively, that gives you the personality of Warren County. There are so many different interesting subsets to engaging consumers and what they like and what they perceive and how they talk to you and get back to you and tell you. So we're going to take you just quickly. First one we came up with was Take Flight Sweepstakes. I know one of the first things I did when I came here is I wanted to take a seaplane ride over the lakes and see what the mountains look like and whatever. It always kind of stuck in my head. So I thought, okay, we've got partners on the platform like Leaf Air, like Trekker, like Adirondack Pub, like High Peaks Distillery, like Adirondack Aromatherapy. And we thought to ourselves, let's go to them. Let's get their ideas. That gets the partners engaged in it. They have ownership in it, and they provide us with the kinds of incentives that we know the consumer is going to react to. It was very successful. We wanted to do a couple of one thing I just want to note, the spring one and the winter one are the bigger ones because we're trying to draw more visitors here in the shoulder season. We know they're here in July and August, but what are they going to come in April? Are we going to get them here in May? Are we going to really get them here in October and November? So in the summer, though, to keep the momentum going and keep the consumer engaged, we decided, hey, let's do a couple of smaller ones. So we did a Grape Escape, we called it, and it was built around the Adirondack Wine and Food Festival. Fort William Henry got involved, Cafe Vero got involved. It was also very successful. Another one that we just did in the fall, just moving into the shoulder season, was the Kaleidoscope giveaway, playing to the color. Beck's Tavern, Revolution Rail, Alpine Lodge. And as you can see, these are businesses that represent a lot of different parts of Warren County. It isn't just all centered around the most urban area. And then Winter Chill is the one that we just finished up. We had Garnet Hill, and again, you can see these things are growing. Bobcat Bar and Grill, Basil and Wicks, Adirondack Thunder involved, and the Queensberry Hotel were involved. And I think I was just going to, the last 1 minute is to show you the videos, right?
Yeah.
These were this is where it really starts for us. Do we have audio? Thank you. Kind of video messaging that appears all over the platform all the time and also in all our social media outreach. Don't underestimate the consumer, really don't. It did, they started to get a following and whatever. Well, that's what happens when you get to be my age, you sit around and think about talking breaks, okay? And this is the one for the fall kaleidoscope thing. So again, these are the kinds of, it's just to give you the flavor of the personality and the way we're engaging the consumers. We're letting them know it's fun to come engage and play with us. And by the way, you're going to have a great time and a great experience, which is what the ultimate goal is. Just to let you know, in the 4 giveaways, we had over 400,000 plus views, 250,000 video plays, and 5,000 target visitors shared with partners. And when we started this, you don't know sometimes. And with the first one, with Take Flight, I was thinking to myself, shit, man, I hope we get at least 500 actual people to enter this thing. We blew past it. We went to 1,200. We got over 2,000 entries. You think what it takes for somebody to say, oh yeah, I'm going to enter that. I want to do that. And we just have a 1-page give out to give you, because there are a lot of testimonials. People are responding to us, telling us how great either the platform is or the experience was with one of these things that they did. So and I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, Jesse, Amanda, Ed, good job, everyone. Thank you. Supervisor Molino?
Yo, I'm saying this from the bottom of my heart. You convinced us to do this back a few years ago.
I know.
I'll sit there and listen to your idea where this might go. The way you handle us, the way you convinced us, got you this point. And I'm very grateful.
Well, thank you, Gene.
A lot of people say, oh, why give them the money for this? We don't know. This committee has a tough job because we don't know if it's going to be a success, if it's going to be the greatest thing that ever happened to Lake George or failure.
Right.
And I think in the past 20 years, we've gotten mostly successful things.
You certainly have. From my experience, when I got up here just today, just to let you know, I looked at Mike and Gene and Kevin and Larry and John. I mean, you were the guys that 3 years ago, you were like, what's going on with this guy? And you know, the fact that you did, you put your faith in it, it really gave us the boost we needed, but again, we take it, we have it's serious fun, if that makes sense to you. And that's what the consumer responds to, you know, okay, so you got the
Supervisor
handout.
Patchett,
If you got an extra
question?
minute or so, you can take a look at the testimonials and some questions. Anybody got questions?
Jesse,
Thank you,
got
Mr.
Question, comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm noticing you gave some really good metrics here. Excellent presentation. I see at the bottom here, two questions. There's 682% growth in visitors driven to businesses. Does that mean physically driven to businesses? And my second question is, and I imagine this is very hard to produce, are there any like dollar amount metrics that can be provided? And I imagine that's very hard to do.
You know why? Because one of the things that Gene's kind of alluding to here, Josh, is that what we do is honestly is an inexact science. You know, you're trying different things and trying to get perceptions. We can get them to the door. We know we can get them to the door. We proved we can get them to the door. Whether or not the fulfillment is there at the business is something that we honestly don't, we just don't know, you know? So in terms of the dollar amount, we can tell from the businesses because they tell us it's a success, but we don't have any metrics that dig that deep, nor would we.
But what does the 682% mean, growth in visitors driven to businesses mean if it doesn't mean physically?
And
That is clicks.
that means that they thought enough to follow through to go to see what that business is.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
we-
you.
We can track the click-throughs, and then we ask businesses, how's it doing? Do you have people come in? Do you ask them? And wherever we can collect the testimonials of people like a Jim Cronin that says, yeah, I had somebody come in with their phone saying they saw us on Lake George TV. So I'm gonna play around golf.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you,
Questions?
thank you.
Everyone,
Supervisor Onion?
thank you. Mostly a comment. So when they enter the sweepstakes, you also have no way of knowing the potential of how many people who lost the sweepstakes came anyway. They may have.
Oh, you know, they might have, sure. And look,
Right.
if they thought it up, again, it's perception building, right? Right, Deb? If someone gets a favorable impression about something, they're more inclined to act on it. I know there's some psychology involved in all this, and I know it doesn't always apply, but I do know over the years that get them excited about it, get them interested in it. And then they get a sense of that might be a nice experience for myself and my family.
Right.
And that, you know, then again, it's kind of an inexact science, but it's proven itself time and again. And it shows up in the numbers. These people, we wouldn't be able to show these numbers.
Something that was interesting too is that our first sweepstakes winner, she didn't come once. She
Oh,
actually
yeah.
came half a dozen times and did one thing each time.
Each time.
And then stayed over multiple times.
Oh,
So that was.
And
That was
all
nice
different
to
people
see.
together.
Like,
Yeah, it's in the testimonials.
That she didn't come and just do it all at once. She actually came in half a dozen times.
Right.
Did a few things each time.
Mhm.
Very good, thank you.
Thanks very much.
Privilege, moving forward, privilege of the floor and public comment? Public? Supervisors? No. Supervisor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Great presentation, Jesse, Amanda, Ed. My question's more for Heather, and that was an excellent presentation. Throughout that presentation, you mentioned several times Winter's Dream. My question is, have we had any updates? You know, Moment Factory is the entity that created that. And they ostensibly took this year off so they could improve it. Have we had any contact from them, with them, as to what the future holds? We allocated, expended, whatever, about $3 million with them? Quite a sizable expenditure. I was in favor of it, but as time goes on, I'm less convinced that I made the right decision, but that's neither here nor there. It's water under the bridge, blah, blah, blah. So I'd just like to know if we could get an update, the Board of Supervisors particularly, and the public, because I've had many people ask me over the past several months, you know, what's going on with that? They know how much money we gave them. They were here. Weather didn't cooperate, and then they're gone. And so they wonder, what the future holds with respect to them. So if we could get an update, again, to share with the public, to share with this Board of Supervisors, that would be greatly
Absolutely.
appreciated.
We
So
will work on that for you. Thank you.
thank you.
Supervisor Bruno? Anybody else? Motion to adjourn. Motion made by Supervisor Merlino, seconded by Supervisor Runyon. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Thank you.